Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Golden Ratio podcast. I am Jen, GR Mom, joined over distance by GR Dad.
Hi.
How's it going, GR Dad?
Good. I am always surprised at your technological prowess in making this happen remotely.
Thank you. You gave me like 5 minutes to come up with an entire remote podcasting system, and it is working.
You're amazing.
Yes, I am.
Just amazing and nice, too. And you're really nice.
How are things in Vancouver?
Good. Real nice. Like very springy. There's a lot of cherry trees blossoming, and it's a bit brisk, but it's very pleasant. It's a nice place to be.
We're going to talk all about your road trip in the ramblings section of the podcast.
Okay.
For those who are wondering why you're in Vancouver, who have not been closely following your exploits. The cocktail of the week this week is the Singapore Sling.
Ooh.
I was telling you this story that when I was in high school, we didn't take a lot of vacations when I was growing up, but when I was a senior in high school, my parents, who own a business, had a work trip to Singapore, and they brought me and my brother and my, at the time, ex-boyfriend.
This is such a bad story. In and of itself. Oh.
I had dated this boyfriend for 3 years of high school, which itself was a huge mistake. He was a year older than me. And he went away to college at the beginning of my senior year. And then I found out that he had hooked up with my best friend on a school trip the previous year. And I broke up with him, which I should have done 3 weeks into us dating. But whatever, better late than never.
My God,
but he worked for my parents.
If this were a movie, no one would believe it. Actually, I'd be like, it's too far-fetched.
He had worked for my parents throughout high school, and he continued working for them while he was in college. And actually for freaking 10 years after that. He
broke up with him, and your parents still employed him, kept him around. It was bizarre.
Oh, we're not going to get into it on this podcast, but the drama and bizarreness that followed that guy around was intense well after I had nothing left to do with him. But anyway, I broke up with him.
Can't wait for the next no rules.
I broke up with him at the beginning of my senior year of high school. And in January of my senior year, so 3 or 4 months later, we took this trip to Singapore, my family and my ex-boyfriend, who was my ex-boyfriend at the time. And it went exactly as well as you would think such a trip would go, which was not well at all. And there's a whole no rules drunken podcast to be done talking about that trip. But we're not going to do that here. The important thing is that there is a hotel in Singapore called Raffles. It's very fancy. I looked it up this week. That's like $1,000 a night to stay there now. We could not afford to stay there at the time, but they have a kind of very, famous classic bar, and it's out on the patio. Picture big white British colonial building. As Ingo said, slow fans moving out on the patio. And we went there one afternoon with a whole lot of us. And I don't know if we had lunch or if we just went to have drinks at this place. And I, of course, was an avowed teetotaler, certainly in high school. I mean, I didn't really drink until I was almost 30, but was quite actively anti-alcohol. And I was fine with other people drinking, but I certainly didn't do it. And so I went to this bar, and I think you could drink. I mean, I was 18, my ex-boyfriend was 19. I think I could have had a drink, but I did not. And I ordered a virgin Singapore Sling, which, looking at the ingredients now as an adult, I'm pretty sure was Sprite with grenadine in it. That's the only way you could make a virgin version of this. But whatever, that's what I ordered, because the Singapore Sling is a very classic cocktail, and it was invented at this bar in the Raffles Hotel in Singapore. And I think I had 2 of them. And we were in the cab going back to our hotel, and my ex-boyfriend was like, I think he had a regular 1 or 2, with alcohol in it. And he was like, wow, that drink, it's really sweet. You can't even tell that there's alcohol in it. And I was like, I think somebody could tell if there's alcohol. He's like, how do you know that they didn't serve you an alcoholic one? Maybe you just didn't even notice. And the recipe for this drink calls for 3 ounces of alcohol, and I had 2 of them, so I'm quite certain that 18-year-old Jen would have noticed drinking 6 ounces of alcohol on an empty stomach, let alone that alcohol really tastes like medicine if you're not used to drinking it. But he's like, how do you know? I mean, there's no way you could taste it, so you just couldn't possibly know. And it just was like one of those things that pushed all my buttons, right? Like, you don't reliably understand your own life experience. And like, I'm here to tell you that, like, you know, I could answer this, but like, you couldn't possibly. It wasn't the most dickish thing that he did, but it was really exemplary of like 7 days of that kind of bullshit from him nonstop. It was terrible. And so you can just imagine in any family the tension of dealing with this kind of dynamic in a country where, we are not world travelers, right? We took 2 trips to Disney World and 1 skiing vacation when I was growing up. So you're in a very foreign place, and that alone is tense. And then you got this drama, I don't think I was in the mood for it. So I'm not saying that I was like a perfect peacekeeper, but he just like wouldn't leave it alone, right? It was his goal to piss me off on this trip. That my parents took him on for free as my ex-boyfriend. Like, ugh. Anyway, that is what I normally think of with the Singapore sling, is that stupid comment that he was making in the taxi ride on the way back to our hotel in Singapore in 1995. And for some reason, this cocktail came up in some other context in my life this week. And I was like, I've never had a Singapore sling as an adult with alcohol in it. I should try to make one. And so I went and I bought the ingredients for it. It uses gin, Benedictine, which is one of those liqueurs made by monks. Mm-hmm. And it's a kind of sweet herbal cordial. Quite nice. So that, Grand Marnier, you could also use Cointreau, like an orange liqueur. And then it traditionally would have cherry hearing, which is a cherry flavored liqueur, but it's made with a lot of cherry pits. We don't have any cherry hearing, and they don't have it at the liquor store here, but I used amaretto because that's like the cherry pit flavor is very similar to an amaretto. And an amaretto, like Di Serono, tastes a little bit like cherries if you don't pay attention, so it's a good substitute in there. And then you shake all that up, you top it with some club soda. Freaking delish! This drink is so good. It's so good. 100% like entering our regular rotation. Would order it out at a restaurant. It's really great. So I don't know that I'll ever make it back to Singapore, but if I do, I'm going back to Raffles to their bar, and I'm having one properly with no assholes yelling stuff at me.
That's hopefully the drink has redeemed itself, and you'll probably still associate it with that stupid memory, but still, the drink is innocent.
Well, now I know how to make it. Yeah. So now in my head, it's sort of like, oh yes, it's a 1/4 ounce of each of these things and an ounce of this, and it's got pineapple juice and lime in it. It's really great. Whoa. So anyway, there you go. Cocktail of the week. Ingo, when you're back, I'll make you one, but I've had a couple, enough for both of us.
Nice.
Okay. Administrative corner.
Oh yeah, I like the administrative corner.
Ingo, it's going to be epic this week.
Oh, I can't even. I gotta sit down.
All right.
Okay.
So let us begin with the Golden Ratio Foundation. I'm so excited about the Golden Ratio Foundation. So everybody who listens to this podcast probably follows the socials, but if you don't, or if you just missed it, we got our approval letter from the IRS this week for the foundation that we have now started, the Golden Ratio Foundation. So this is an idea that we got a couple months ago. And, one of the times that Voods was in the hospital, I think when he had the MRI and we had that very, very big vet bill, a few people were like, could we send some money to help with Voods? And that people often offer that when we, have these kind of emergency situations. And Ingo, you and I always talk about how, like, we're doing well financially, so we don't want to have money flowing from you guys to us, just giving us money. Like, it feels weird.
The flowing idea is mine. Like, it should flow down from the rich to the not so rich. And I feel like it should it's very unnatural to have money flowing up. I've had situations at work where everyone collected money to give the boss of the entire legal department a birthday present. And I was like,
Yeah.
why are we putting money together to give the one with the highest salary, a birthday present? It just seems like the money's flowing uphill instead of the way it should, which is downhill. So that's where that flowing thing, the idea comes from. Yeah.
But at the same time, like, we know that lots of you really love our dogs and would feel good helping. And I certainly feel like that. Like, I support Blair Braverman and Quince Mountain. They have a Patreon. Like, I support their Patreon. That helps support their dogs. I feel good being able to like give them my $25 a month to support their dogs, right?
Sure.
Because I love like them as humans and their dogs, and I think they're great. I love their writing, and that's all supported with this. So I get that like people want to help us take care of the dogs. Like, it makes you feel good to do that. And so it kind of launched this idea that like, if we had a nonprofit, like, it makes it much more transparent. So nobody could be like, I wonder if I send them $20 for their dog, if they're going to use it to go buy cocktails, like, or whatever, right? Like, we're kind of transparent about what the money's being used for. It then becomes tax deductible for people, which is pretty good. But also, there's other stuff that we can do then. And so we're very fortunate to be friends with Jen Coleslaw, who I feel like we mention every week on the podcast at this point, who has a lot of nonprofit experience. And I texted her and I was like, Jen Coleslaw, I think we want to start a nonprofit. And she's like, I've been waiting for you to ask me about this. She's just, I think when Jasmine was sick, she had pitched the idea, you guys should start a nonprofit. And I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. Like, Queso had just died. We just got Guac. The pandemic was starting. We just got Brody. And I'd completely forgotten until she's like, I've been waiting. I was like, oh, that's right. Like, you did suggest this like 2 years ago, but it was before COVID. So it was really like 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
And she just gave us a ton of like really great advice and enthusiasm about all the stuff that we can do. So our goal with the foundation is to help take care of special needs dogs, including ours. So it will help pay for a lot of our big vet bills, but also to help generally with this kind of thing. So helping support rescue groups that want to take in special medical needs. I've got a comment on that in a minute. And then also supporting medical research into the kinds, these sort of problems that we deal with all the time. So like, Hopper and Vink are part of the Morris Animal Foundation Golden Retriever Lifetime Study. We haven't made plans about where we're going to donate to that yet, but Morris Animal Foundation could be one of those groups that's top of the list where we could make a donation to support the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study that helps, hopefully track down why Goldens get so many cancers and do stuff about it.
Yeah.
In terms of the rescue group, so I tweeted today, so recording on Wednesday, I tweeted out about the foundation, and Dog Rates congratulated us. And I don't know if you've been on the socials today.
No.
So Dog Rates said congratulations, and I said, yeah, we, and by we I mean I, was very inspired by Matt's 15 out of 10 foundation, which he started, I think, late last year. So if you also want to give money to another group, the 15 out of 10 foundation is Matt Nelson / Dog Rates' foundation that finds dogs in shelters who have complicated medical problems or behavioral problems that need a lot of expensive either training or treatment that kind of makes them normally unadoptable. And it takes those dogs out of the shelters and pays for their lifetime of treatment related to the conditions that they have. So it's really wonderful. And they have, they introduce all the dogs that they rescue, and you see them go to their homes and get treatment for their problems. And I just thought it was amazing that he started this, and like they're already having this really beautiful impact. And so when Dog Rates congratulated us on Twitter today, I said, thanks. I was really inspired by the 15 out of 10 foundation. Maybe we can work on a project together. And 15 out of 10 foundation on Twitter was like, I think we totally can. So that's the kind of thing where if they were to find, say, a golden or a golden adjacent dog in a shelter that needed a lot of really intensive medical care, that we could like partner up with them on something like that and help. Certainly donate to groups like Great, who's the rescue group that we work with in DC. Like, they have paid for all of Remy's medical bills so far, thousands and thousands of dollars. And the same thing for Riley. I mean, they paid all of his medical bills the whole time.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
I think Cheggs for a long time too, right?
Cheggs,
Yeah.
I think Cheggs, we didn't ever officially transfer him to us.
Yeah.
I think he may have died before we did the paperwork. And Parm, I think we paid for his surgery, but up until that, they covered all of his stuff. So that's the kind of thing where we could, make a donation to their fund for either a specific special needs dog or just their general ones. They do have dogs that are kind of permanent fosters, like Riley was, who they're never going to get adopted out because they've got, ongoing serious medical needs, and Great just pays for them all the time. So with the foundation, we can apply for grants. We can like really expand the reach of what we're able to do. So it will help us with this squad of dogs, but also let us do other stuff. And at Jen Coleslaw's recommendation, she's like, you should show how much it costs to take care of one of these dogs. And I was like, that's a great idea. Let me add up Voodoo's medical expenses from the last 12 months.
It was a mixed blessing doing that, yeah.
Because I keep track of our vet expenses generally, because, for accounting and all the stuff that we have to do, it doesn't matter. But I don't break it down by dog. And I only, I don't add all the stuff in there. It's just sort of a general tracking. So I added up for Voods all of his vet bills, plus the costs of his prescriptions, like his medicine that he gets every day. I left a few things out. I was thinking today, like I didn't put in the Dasaquin, I didn't put in the Flexidin, but generally most of his prescription medicine and his prescription dog food for the epilepsy. And over the last 12 months, his total is just over $29,000.
Yeah, what's his medicine cost? His pills?
Almost $5,000 a year just for his daily pills.
Amazing. The guy
Yeah.
is not appreciative enough. I think he needs to be nicer. Did you tell Voods? Did you explain this to Voods? Because I think he's not very grateful.
It gives me a dumb look. So anyway, so the foundation would have to do very well to cover all of our vet bills. But it certainly makes it easier. Like, we're really lucky, and we are right on the border of being able to afford to take care of Voods. And we're doing pretty well. Like, there's not a lot of people who could afford $30,000 a year to take care of their dog. That's ridiculous. And he's not our only dog. And so, like, we've talked about maybe picking up extra jobs to pay for Voodoo's medical bills. So this is the kind of thing where, because, we have a savings account. I put money in there because we anticipate what he's going to cost, and we're managing it. But if the rescue group were to be like, could you take on another dog who would have $10,000 or $15,000 of bills every year? It's the kind of thing where logistically we could, not with 6 now, but, say in the future, they give us another one. Logistically, sure, like we could manage the care of another dog, but I don't think we could take on another $15,000 of expense of a dog.
No.
I mean, it would be hard, right? Like there'd be a lot of stuff we would have to do to make that happen. And so the foundation allows us to just kind of even that out a little bit, where we're still going to have expensive dogs and we're still going to be paying for them because they need a lot of medical care. But the foundation being able to supplement that allows us to take ones that nobody else can really take care of and give them what they need.
Right. And the foundation makes it formal, right? So it's like, it's a good way to sort of, for us to completely promise that if you give money for the dogs, it can only ever be used for the dogs. There's just it's going to be a separate bucket. It won't be touched for anything else. There won't be any confusion or anything else. So, not that anyone's doubting us, but I feel better making it real formal and real clear.
Yeah, me too, 100%. So, yeah, it feels like then it's not Jen and Ingo taking your money. Like it is a proper
Absolutely.
501c3 charitable organization where you get receipts at the end of the year.
Hmm.
And it makes some things like I discovered last night that if you are a Patreon supporter of us, so we just have one level of Patreon, it's $4.99 a month. It gets you the same stuff as Twitter followers. You basically get extra videos every day. You get a dad joke on Fridays. More when Boots ends up in the hospital, you get twice daily updates when the neurologist calls us. So it's just extra content. We were able to set ourselves up as a nonprofit in Patreon. So now anybody who subscribes to us on Patreon can, like, all of those count as charitable deductions. So the $5 a month that people pay are now charitable deductions. So at the end of the year, you get a $60 deduction for that.
Well, you did that math really fast. That was good.
12 times 5. It's,
Oh.
it's like seconds. There's 12 hours on a clock and there's 5. Anyway,
That's pretty good. I'm impressed.
thanks. I have a PhD in basically math. Actually, that usually makes you much worse at basic arithmetic. So
I'm impressed.
yeah. So anyway, it's really exciting. It's formal now. And we're kind of just getting everything up and running in terms of, like, we'll set up a mailing list and send people thank you notes and all kinds of stuff. But the future holds a lot of really exciting opportunities to potentially turn this into, like, a really big thing. And I'm very excited for us to grow it and see what we can do and help a lot of wonderful but sick dogs be happy.
Or Voods.
I mean, it would be a good year for the foundation if just Vood's bills were taken care of.
Yeah,
Could we transfer ownership of Vood's to the foundation?
probably.
And then maybe he'd be less salty to us.
Maybe we have
because
to.
we wouldn't be his people then. It's like, no, I'm owned by a foundation.
I'm the foundation dog. That'd be funny. There's junkyard dogs and then there's foundation dogs.
It's like a trust fund baby, but a
Oh
foundation
my
dog.
God. Literally, he'd be a trust fund dog. That's funny.
All right, so that's the foundation. Very exciting. That's the big news of the week. The other small news, speaking of finances here in Administrative Corner, is that some of you who still use Snapchat have noticed that there are ads playing in the Snap Stories now. This is a new thing that Snapchat is trying out. They invited us to try it, so we're trying it. We'd like your feedback. If it's super terrible, like, let us know. It seems like it will supplement now, instead of the Waffle Fund, like the foundation, with a decent amount of money, though it remains to be seen. It's just kind of like Google Ads or whatever, right? Like, you just see what you get at the end of the month. We don't control it. We don't pick the ads. They're just, just like on any platform, they just get stuck in there.
Yeah, we don't pick where they get put either. Like, we don't
No.
need to take breaks or anything like that. It's kind of they jam it in there.
Yeah, it's just an algorithm that sticks them in there. So we just clicked the button that was like, sure, stick them in there. So those people, like, I think there's like Bissell Spotbot ads in there. I mean, we have a Bissell Spotbot. Like, that's great. We would love for Bissell to give us a whole bunch of money to advertise, but that they just happen to probably be like, put us on stories about dogs. But none of those are people that we have partnered with. Like, just like on any social media platform, they've just gone to Snapchat and they're showing up. And the algorithm puts it in there. So, yeah, do whatever you want with the ads, but don't feel like, oh, like these people have given the Golden Ratio money, and so, like, we'll support them because we love those dogs. They're just algorithmically stuck in.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. Like, someone has to watch the snaps, or we have to watch our own snaps to find out what Snapchat is putting in there, and it may vary by person. Jen, privacy expert.
Probably, yeah, it should.
Well, there you go. So the ad, think about what it says about you.
All right, so that's Administrative Corner. If you want to know more about the Golden Ratio Foundation, it's goldenratiofoundation.org. And then we're Golden Ratio FDN on Twitter. There's not much on the Twitter account yet because we're just starting, but it's pretty exciting.
Yes. Do we want to talk about counter social or nah? Not yet. Too preliminary.
No.
Fair enough.
No.
Fair enough.
Dog updates.
Yes, I'm so out of the loop on this. I'm watching Snapchats, and I was telling Jen the other day where I said, I can't, I'm so used to having the dogs all the time and seeing them all the time. Seeing like 5 minutes of snaps a day is not enough. I don't like it. I
I
don't like it. So I don't know what the hell they're
mean,
doing right now.
that's how I felt last or whatever,
It's
2 weeks ago when I was
it's not
gone.
a good deal.
You had Boots in the hospital. We thought Hops was going to die from her cancer. Remy ate 5 pounds of chocolate. They got it all out of their system with you and Goat because literally nothing has happened in the week since you left.
Don't jinx it, right? Are you knocking on wood? Because I'm knocking on wood.
All right.
Secondly, I like the fan who said it's probably because they all were trying to get your attention so you could come back. Like it was all a cry for help to make you come back, and they just can't handle you. When I leave, nothing happens. When you leave, all hell breaks loose.
Well,
So
that's true.
think of it that way.
It's quite boring around here. We're sleeping till late in the
It
morning.
just sounds terrible.
Everybody's
Oh, it
fine right
sounds
now.
terrible.
It's they're all doing good. I only have two things on my dog updates list, and they're both very minor.
Good.
One is that Vink almost cost. Let me try that again. Vink almost caught a lizard. So Vink runs out the front door, and then she stands at the top of the stairs and she looks down because often the big iguanas sit in our little fruit tree orchard at the bottom of the steps. And if she spots a lizard, she throws herself
I
down
mean,
the
she
stairs
probably
and tries to catch
touches
the
two
lizard.
steps or something when she does that. She is remarkably not the bunny hop. She just flies down there.
Nope. So this week she spotted a lizard, threw herself down, and managed to get between the lizard and the water. So the lizard naturally starts running towards the water, but Vink was there. So the lizard then turned around and started running towards the front yard, trying to get under the fence. But our neighbors blocked the under the fence because they were worried our dogs would come through. So the lizard couldn't get under the fence. So Vink almost caught it. It like swung itself around. She almost had that thing. It bolted for the water. She was basically in front of it and it got past her. She was like within a foot of that lizard's tail. And I was like trying to stop her, but like, what can I do? Like I was at the top of the stairs. I couldn't physically stop her and she was not going to listen to me.
Vink the hunter, all of a sudden. Jeez.
Yeah. The lizard gets to the seawall and just yeeted itself into the ocean. Vink paused for 2 minutes and then yeeted her own self right after it. But those lizards are very fast in the water.
Yeah.
So it was gone. And then she just swam in circles looking for it with me yelling at her and like throwing little pebbles at her to try to get her attention. I had to eventually get into the water and drag her wet, furry butt back up onto the beach.
She smells. She
catch
smells the lizards for long after they're gone. She's the most smell focused of our dogs. I think
She can smell everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why she's always in my pocket for crumbs and stuff because she knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, she when she gets like that, she's really hard. And the problem with having the seawall now, which is so great in so many ways, is that it can be, depending on the tide, like a 3 foot drop to the water. So it's much harder for us to just get in, wade into the water after the dogs. We kind of have to jump down, clamber down these big rocks. So getting in the water is harder, and for her, getting out is harder.
Yep. So that's the Vink update. And then the other update is just very small. So, we announced a couple pods ago that we're going to do the paperwork to officially adopt Remy. And after the chocolate incident, I had to email the whole foster team and be like, just so you know, we went to the vet because he ate 5 pounds of chocolate. He's fine, but you're going to get a bill. I said, you better send that paperwork so we can adopt him so he doesn't do anything else rash that is going to cost a bunch of money. And so they're like, oh, this is awesome. Glad you're adopting him. And one of the people was like, you had a really tough time. Has he really settled in? And I was like, he is the hardest dog that we have ever had to integrate. Like, he's still a pain in the butt. But man, was he impossible for the first, 6 months that he was here. And she said, are you going to change his name? Because you always have such great names for your dogs. And we change almost all of them when they come in. And I was like, we're keeping it Remy, but we've changed it. Like, he was Remington before. And I'm like, we changed it to Remoulade. And I was like, it totally has stuck. Like, we call him Remy sometimes, but we also call him Remoulade. And I sing little songs to him, like, remoulade, remoulade, took a drink of limonade. And she responded and she said, well, it sounds like you took that lemon and turned him into limonade, which I was very impressed. He was, and still kind of is, totally a lemon.
He's so
But
good
now,
in other ways, though.
limonade. He's a nice boy. He had some adventures today because I got distracted at work, and he managed to get himself in the water and back out without me noticing. So I brought him in and dried him off, and then he just kind of climbed up on the couch and put his head on my lap and took
Oh,
a
well,
nap.
that's nice.
He loves me a
So
lot.
he can't talk, so he can't tell you what he did to get so wet.
No. So anyway, that's it. Everybody else is fine, doing good. But we do have ramblings still, Ingo. Do you want
Yeah.
to talk about your epic road trip?
Let me clear up like a little tiny minor matter first, because it's driving some
Oh,
fans to distraction or distracting some fans. I mentioned
we call
it's
them friends of the squad, please.
friends of the squad. Sorry, squad friends. Um, I'd mentioned in one of my snaps that I was giving Voods half an egg because of reasons, and it's with his food, and it's actually not very sinister. It's not a great story. I just wanted to clear it up, which is that we're feeding Remy, or we're really trying to do 12-hour divisions between Remy's meals, and not 10. You know, like if we feed him at 7:30 and then at 5:30, that we thought we were trying to, regulate his glucose levels, and so we're trying to give him his insulin, which follows the dinner, 12 hours apart. So when the other dogs get fed, sometimes we just give Remy like an egg. And I think the one time I gave Remy half an egg with his as his like first dinner, so he can feel like he's eating dinner, half an egg and a bunch of green beans, and I gave the other half of the egg to Voods as part of his dinner, like not as a egg carrot, but as part of his dinner. And so that's the whole background there. Not It's not more than that, or I didn't drop an egg, and it wasn't like anything dramatic. But that's our rationale there, is to try to get Remy really 12 hours between shots of insulin, so that there's no overlap between the old dose and the new dose, or less overlap. So that's the background there. So there you go. Did
Indeed.
I explain that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Good job.
Yeah, the other thing is the epic road trip, where my daughter had applied for a summer job where she needed a car,
Which she did not
which she
have.
did not have at the time. But she said, "I will see. I can get access to a car," I think is what she said in the interview. And they didn't follow up enough, and so
No, she was just like, Dad'll get me a car.
she wanted to buy a car from or get a car from
I was gonna say, buy a car with your money.
sure. I mean, there's
Let's just be
some
clear.
assistance. But she also
Wait,
thinks
the financial. I just want to be clear. You're being generous here. Don't play this down. The assistance wasn't like, oh, she's been saving up money for a year from her job and she was going to buy herself a car. The assistance was you would pay for it and she would buy a car.
yeah, or let her buy a 25-year-old Subaru Baja that has
Still with your
6
money.
million. Well, that probably would be like $1,000. She could have afforded that for like 6 million miles on it, which I wasn't too happy with either. So it's yes. Am I helping her? Of course I am.
It's okay.
Of course I am.
You should be
I didn't
proud of
I didn't
being
buy her a
good, helpful
car
dad.
when she graduated from high school, so it's a little belated. So we have had the Kia as a third car, and it is the
It
easiest.
was our Maryland car.
Yeah, it is the easiest administratively to just drive that up to her, just give that to her. And so she made some noises about flying down and driving up with me, and then that wasn't as convenient for her. And so I said, I'll drive it up there. I wanted to see her anyway, right? So I would have either flown up in this time frame to see her and then flown back, or this, which is to drive the car up and leave the car with her and then fly back. So that's what I'm doing. So I drove from Washington, D.C. Across the country, almost 3,000 miles to Vancouver.
Yeah.
It took what, 5 days? Four and a half, 5 days,
Five. Yeah. Four and a
four and a
half.
half
Yeah.
days. So it wasn't pushing it as hard as it wasn't as long a days as it is when we drive from Florida to Maryland, which we sort of forced to do in 2 days. So it was actually the days were more pleasant.
You were in remarkably good spirits every time I talked to
Yeah, I
you.
kind of like. I mean, I do like the driving and not having to drive at night, not having to drive when I'm exhausted. Really did make it pleasant, and I like going to hotels. Like I went to a different, Holiday Inn Express or whatever it was, something something hotel every night, and it was kind of nice. Like I had a few hours to decompress and you know catch up on social media and send emails and stuff. So it wasn't a terrible trip, a terrible drive, and I like driving. I mean, that is so you start from that, right?
Yeah.
And it was I as I sort of have said before, and this may sound a little old persony. I think I would recommend that if you have a chance to drive across country, especially the fat way, right, or especially from one coast to the other, I think you should do it. Take a buddy if you want. Do it by yourself. Bring a dog. But it's amazingly big. Like, it's so big
The country's
and
big.
so different, and there are such vast differences between the East Coast and the middle that is so flat and so wide, and then you get into the Rockies, and there's desert, and it's amazing. This is all one country, so it really I think it's a good perspective builder, and it really makes you appreciate how how much different other people's perspective must be just by virtue of where they are and what they look to as the nearest town or the you know how they define their worlds, right? Because it's the center is not going to be the same center of the world that it is for you. So it was
Hmm.
very interesting. Also, it's really easy in some ways, right? You don't have to book anything. You don't have to be tracked. You don't need your passport. You just drive wherever you want, whatever you want. It's very
Yep.
cool that way. And it's so easy these days because there's services everywhere. There's gas stations everywhere. There's decent food everywhere. It's gotten so much better. I mean, I'm old enough to remember driving cross country before there was the internet and before cell phones, which in some ways was more liberating. But on the other hand, also meant you had to like drive from motel to motel, checking to see if there were rooms for that night, which could be stressful.
Yes, I had to do that, and it was especially stressful when my car lost third and fourth gear,
Yeah.
my automatic car in outside of Valmy, Nevada, and I had to drive on the shoulder in first gear for like
Oh,
15 miles till I got to the town, which was a post office and a gas station, wherein I found a payphone
yeah.
to call like Chevy roadside service and waited 3 hours to get towed back to the bustling metropolis of Winnemucca.
Winnemucca. Yeah.
Uh, then I had to hitchhike from Winnemucca to Reno to catch a flight back to Chicago, and my car was gone for like a month.
This is a great
You don't have to do
story.
that
That's a
anymore.
great story.
Internet, cell phones. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Yeah, no, now it's great. It was
But
quite
the
stressful at the
payphone,
time.
you probably you opened the yellow pages that were at in the booth.
Oh, there was a sticker on my car because my car
Oh,
was
see,
pretty
that's
new,
mine was even older.
so
I
I
had to
had
like
called like 1-800 Chevrolet or
when I
something.
broke down driving cross country back then, I had like maybe I had AAA. I think I had AAA, so you called AAA. That's why they were so
Yeah.
valuable back then because there was one number that worked from payphones because it was 1-800. It's a
Hmm.
little less, unique now. But anyway, so even if you
I'm
break
glad you
down
had a
these
good time.
days, it's a lot easier because you got cell phones, frankly, and
Yeah,
it's
it
a
sure
lot easier
is.
to recommend to others because it's
And you can get an Uber to somewhere.
you can to some.
You don't have to
Although I
hitchhike
think that
like
that
I
may
did.
be a
It was
big
not
city
good.
conceit too. I don't think you can get an Uber in middle of South
Oh, you
Dakota.
totally, you 100% can. Well, maybe not in like Valmy, Nevada, but you absolutely can in the middle of nowhere because it's an easy job for people, right? Like they just have to sign up with the app. And so it's like they don't get a lot of traffic, but you can make some extra cash driving
You think?
drunk people from the bar to their house.
Sure. Yeah. But like when I was driving, 90 was closed for a stretch because they had to get some snowplows through because they'd had a huge snowstorm, hurricane force wind kind of thing on a few days before, and they were still semis
No,
in
wait
the.
a minute. Wait. You're changing the subject from Uber drivers, right?
There's no Ubers in South Dakota.
I'm literally gonna get a ride from South Dakota right
Oh,
now.
okay.
Where did you stay in South Dakota?
Oh, I don't remember.
Do you remember?
Uh,
All right, so we're gonna say South Dakota State
sure.
University
Yeah.
to the South Dakota Art Museum. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 lifts
Oh,
in the area
get
available
out.
in Brookings, South Dakota right now. You can go.
Ah,
Come on, I can get a priority pickup in 2 minutes or a standard pickup in 3 minutes.
I'm disappointed. It's everywhere.
It's
All right.
everywhere.
Well, good. I mean, even better. Even better.
Okay.
Traveling is even
Uh,
better. So it was a pleasant drive, and now I'm up here visiting my daughter, and then I will fly back over the weekend.
yep.
And
Yeah, you will have been gone almost 2 weeks,
yeah, I mean
10 or 11 days.
it's a long time. I don't like being away from you and the dogs that long, but
We don't mind. You can stay longer if
there
you
are
want to.
reasons. There are reasons.
Okay. Under ramblings, I just want to do podcast rec, if I could. Podcast recommendation.
You wreck a podcast. I always wreck podcasts.
No, I don't want to wreck anybody. I mean, there actually are some podcasts I
I'm
probably want to
wrecking
wreck,
this
but
podcast.
the other people might like them. I don't need to destroy anybody's podcast. So this is a new podcast from Wondery called Scamfluencers.
Ooh.
Oh man, it's so good. So it's about scams, obviously, and like vaguely internet related. So all modern scams. They're so like they're on episode 4. Episode 4 dropped this week. So episode 1 and 2 was about one particular scam, these people trying to start a ballet company that like fell apart, and all these dancers who got screwed over, and like the whole drama behind it. And my only complaint is that like they drop one episode each week. So they've dropped episodes 1 and 2 are about the ballet thing. 3, 4, and it turns out 5 are about the second scam. And it makes me so angry that I have to wait for that third. When the first one dropped, I was like, okay, well, I know this is going to be more than one part, so I'm not going to listen this week because I want to listen to the whole thing at once. And so this week I was like, oh, I get to listen to both of those episodes of Scamfluencers, and then it's 3 episodes. So now I've been sitting here all week just like wanting the conclusion. It's hosted by these 2 women who just have the best rapport. It reminds me of how people describe our rapport on this podcast, except they're both professionals.
Wait, professional.
they're
I'm a professional. You're a professional.
Yeah, well, they're more professional at podcasts
Than
than
I
we
am.
are.
You can admit it.
But like one of them kind of tells the story, and then she'll be like, "All right, so like the guy sent this email. You want to read this email, or like let me show a picture of picture to you of this guy. Tell me what you think he looks like." And she's like, "Oh, I didn't expect him to look like that." And then she gives like this description. They've got a really funny, like playful, interesting banter with each other as they're telling these stories. Nobody gets murdered in any of these, right? It's more just like, the one they're talking about now is a Ponzi scheme. And, like there are real victims of this. And I don't want to downplay that, but it's presented in a pretty lighthearted way in terms of the storytelling, right? They definitely are not making light of that. In fact, the thing they're talking about now with this Ponzi scheme, they're like kind of consistently going like, he took like his friend's grandparents' retirement fund and spent it on a private jet to Las Vegas. Like, what kind of asshole is this guy? So there's all the appropriate level of judgment, but it's not a real like down heavy true crime podcast with a lot of suffering. It's very light and fun to listen to. I just love it so much. And it's one of those podcasts where I'm like, I wish I had discovered it 300 episodes in, so I could just listen to it constantly
Not
over the
not
next
being able to
month.
binge something must really hurt. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So anyway, it's great. It's by Wondery. Highly recommend. Just I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's plenty that I have liked that have come out recently, but this is one that has really grabbed me. And it's smaller bites, so it's not like a 10-part season that tells one story. It's you get it in 2 or 3
Too many
episodes.
small bites apparently for you.
Man, I
Make
gotta
more.
I gotta just like find find something to keep me occupied for 6 months and then listen to the whole
Yeah,
season.
that's it. That's great. I'll listen to that.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay, do you want to do German word of the week or taste of the keys?
German word of the week.
Okay.
Leitplanke.
So it's something plank,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Plank is
yeah, yeah.
plank. Is light corpse?
No, this is from Leiden to guide. So it's
Oh,
guardrail on a
guardrail. Oh,
Leitplanke.
that's
So it's the
good.
actual guardrail on the. I've been looking at a lot of guardrails
Yeah,
recently, but
road trip
but
themed.
it means to. It's like a board that guides you, right? Because the idea is if you crash into it, you slide forward instead of go sideways into the ditch, right?
Yeah.
Leitplanke.
Oh, I like it. That's a
Yeah,
good word
there you go.
and a good invention.
It is a good invention, yeah. And I saw what happens when you
Yeah.
don't have it this weekend, where there were a lot of
Yeah.
semis and trucks and people with trailers in the ditch where there was no Leitplanke, or they'd gone through the Leitplanke because of snow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw a few, not more than one, which that's notable, of an RV kind of fused together with a semi trailer, both in the ditch. So
Whoa.
you can kind of see what happened. It's 40-mile-an-hour winds, and someone drifted over into the other, and then they both kind of went, "Ugh," but they were still kind of like mushed together into one thing, fused. So Leitplanke, good thing. So healthy,
Yeah.
healthy thing. Stay on that road.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good word.
Okay.
The taste of the keys this week. Man, was I pleased to discover this story. The headline is a crocodile blocked a Navy airfield in Key West. The military needed to call
Yes, I
for
think
help.
that's a great one. I saw that one. Oh, it's so good.
This is by our friend Gwen Filosa, the Miami Herald correspondent for the Keys. And it's got a picture of this big ass croc. If you search for this, you will absolutely
She's not
find
really
it.
our friend. I mean, we have friends.
No, we don't actually know her. We should be careful because the Keys are small enough. Like we're friends with all kinds of people, but we have not met Gwen. Um, so the picture is like of this big ass
Man,
croc on the runway at Key West Naval Air Station where all the fighter jets take off. And it says a crocodile suns itself on the
signs
airfield at Naval
itself.
Air Station Key West on March 10th. In South Florida, surprise visitors can crawl on their bellies and wear out their welcome. Naval Air Station Key West had to remove a stubborn crocodile from its airfield on Boca Chica Key so planes could take off and land. The croc was photographed basking in the spring sunshine with a Super Hornet fighter jet in the background.
Whoa.
Quote, this airfield resident was soaking up some sun on one of our runways recently, and it didn't want to budge, the Naval Air Station announced in a statement posted Monday on Facebook.
Statement.
The crocodile made its appearance on March 10th, said Air Station spokeswoman. Navy officials knew what to do. The air station, at mile marker 8 off the Overseas Highway, is located within the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. Naval Air Station resident wildlife biologist Rosa Gonzalez, who stepped... Excuse me, guap. It's a boat.
It's always a boat.
Now, back to fucking coolest job ever. Naval Air Station resident wildlife
That's
biologist
awesome.
Rosa Gonzalez. Nice job. That sounds awesome. Who snapped the croc's photo, called in reinforcements from the Florida Fish and Wildlife
She's like, I'm
Conservation
not picking this
Commission,
thing up.
FWC, to move the reptile beyond the fence line. The state's trapper went out to take care of the croc, a female, and she was released in another spot on the Navy base.
Crocodile. It was Crocodile.
This is the thing, Ingo. The croc, 7 feet long and 110 pounds, according to the base, has a yellow tag marked with the number 33. And I am 90% sure that crocodile is number 33.
Oh,
I have been trying to find it. I know someone has told me her number. I was going back through old text messages, like searching
The next
stupid
door
next
stuff,
door.
yeah.
I couldn't find the number anywhere either way, but I'm 90% sure that Crocodile was number 33. And I know people have said, like, you can't just on the web track these crocs. Like, there is a tracking system, but I guess it's not just like civilians can log in and do it. But I think when FWC was sharing where Crocodile went, part of it was that she would be over by the air station sometimes. You know, she just has a big territory. So I'm pretty sure this is Crocodile.
This is a great story. It just went from good story to great story.
I know. And our friend who lives a couple streets over, when Crocodile was in her canal, I was going back through her texts, and she had sent me one saying, yeah, you know, the transponder collar has fallen off Crocodile. Like, she had it for a while. A lot of the videos she had it, and then it fell off. And this croc doesn't have one on. They put a new one on her.
Yeah, and it's a she.
Right? It's all, it's a she. So
Crocodile. Now she's out of the airfield. She'll probably come back and menace us again.
Yeah, she hasn't been here, so that also, she doesn't have an alibi.
It all fits. She should just confess. Were you sunning yourself at the Naval Air Station?
The Navy says, we have crocs that live on our airfield, and every once in a while they find themselves on the runway. Usually they can make them scurry away, but this one was stubborn. Naval Air Station had to change runways because the crocodile refused to budge.
I think it speaks very well of the Navy that they didn't just try to like blast that croc, because, you know, there are probably some people who would think that's acceptable. I think that's nice that they did it the right way. Good for them. Good job, Navy. You're good neighbors.
Someone said the neighborhoods right outside of the fence line in Geiger Key have been having multiple croc issues in the past few months.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, the Navy named her Conquita.
Like,
because she's
nice.
a conch. Conquita.
But they may have double named her if she's already Crocodile.
I know. So anyway, there you go. That's Taste of the Keys. That is a pretty damn good story.
Oh, it's a great, full circle from our earlier stories. Yeah. Nice. Well scripted. Life. Yeah. Nice.
All right. Well, Ingo, I know it is earlier for you, but the sun just went down here. It's almost 8 o'clock, and I have not had dinner.
Oh.
I know. So I think we should end this podcast, and I should go eat before I get hangry.
Yeah, don't bite anything, though. Don't bite anyone unless they ask you to. And I know sometimes the dogs are kind of asking for it, so you can chomp a little bit of Remy. He's pretty chompy himself.
Remy, you watch yourself. I'm hungry.
He's kind of chompy.
All right, everyone. Slava Ukraini. Don't bite anyone
unless they ask you to. Bye.
Bye.